Well, and welcome to Seek the Podcast.
Seek the Podcast.
Number three. And by now we're getting so experienced with this, Tim, aren't we? Tell them about the email we got from
Seek Inc.
Seek Inc.
The CEO sent us an email to say, great job, fellas. And we also got an email from podcast.com who got in touch with us to say, wow. You see, it obviously happened because we both said it at the same time. Wow, you do podcasting really well. That's what it said.
He said you two podcasts do really well. And if you know what a podcast is, just let us know because we've been waiting all week. For the record, those emails did not happen. You know, we're just having a joke with you if you didn't get that already. But no, do welcome. And this week we are going to be discussing another pretty heavy topic this week. And it's going to be a little bit around worrying. Something that we all can't avoid. I think a lot of times one of the parts about being human. But what does that mean in the light of, you know, when we're trying to find the best version of ourselves, I guess?
Yeah, and I think it should begin really with the conversation around like, well, what do we care about? What do we worry about? What is there in the world that we struggle with, that causes us to feel anxiety? And I think really we've got to reflect on things like, you know, mental health. I saw something just the other day that said like got 1 million children in the UK who are living in destitution and poverty, and that is crazy. But like with mental health on the rise, it's only going to get worse. There was all kinds of stats and figures around that too, and saying that this is the worst it's ever been for young people in this country, and we're not really addressing it in the way that we need to be doing. What are the things that do you kind of care about, Aaron?
John, it's interesting you say those things. You get like, I don't know about you, but when I hear things like that, I get like a physical kind of heaviness. Just kind of starts to sit on your chest, doesn't it? I read a while ago that the statistics that show if you watch the news, I guess, you know, these days if you're reading, you know, your news app, or if you're constantly kind of on that, there isn't a direct correlation with stress increase. People become more stressed, like a physical, and stress is a physical thing as well as a psychological thing. The more we see and the things we hear and the things we care about, and we start to worry, the kind of heavier it gets. I mean, personally, you know, when I see anything to do with I am bad for it, to be honest. I'll be on X, you know, Twitter, and kind of reading the news quite a lot to see what's happening. And there's a lot of things really. And then there's our own personal lives, isn't there? You know, we worry about as human beings, we worry about the little things too. And they're huge, aren't they? You know, it could be just, for example, a big bill comes in, and it probably happens on a fairly regular basis. Big bill comes in and we think, well, how am I going to pay that?
Yeah,
you know, we've got all the things to deal with. Maybe it's our children, something's happening at school, we're worrying about that. And a lot of the time I think it's to do with the fact that there are many situations we just can't control. And it's a very stressful situation to be in when something means so much to you, like your kids, or the financial security and the well-being of you and the people that you love. But you sit there and you can't do anything else. But it feels like you can't do anything else but worry.
I think the other thing, you know, bringing into that as well, like some of the absolute basics and the things that I think you would assume in a country like ours should just be a bit of a given in think like food, for example. You know, in lockdown there was a lot of food parcels getting sent around. We know from running a food bank here that there is such high demand that there isn't enough food in these food banks to be able to feed people. That should be a given, and it's just not the case. And you can imagine the amount of stress on a family not being able to, you know, even provide the food that's needed, you know, in the week. And then I think just to add into that as well, like for me in my own life, like my understanding, I guess, of things like politics, like I don't think I've ever felt more fear around things like politics in the world than I think we do right now, and the people that are in charge and the way that they maybe are allowed to behave, and the things that they value in the world. And so you think all of these different things coming into our minds and constantly filling, you know, just our everyday, and like how we are, and then you add into that maybe like you fall out with someone, you add into that a difficult day at work, you add into that traffic, you know, whatever it is, and all of a sudden, you know, it's so easy for anxiety to just keep popping
just
up.
keep
and
building up and building up. And your care's just getting overwhelmed. And there's so many things. I mean, there's got to be a very fortunate day when you sit there and you don't, there's only one thing you need to think about. You're just juggling things all the time. And that kind of brings me back again to that idea of sometimes that lack of control means that we don't know what else to do, but worry, and it's got that fight or flight, like stuck in the same place. Actually, on a kind of lighter note as well, it reminds me of a few years ago, and I know this happens quite a lot. A few years ago, we were driving past a local church of ours, and on the front they had a big church sign, and it said,
"Oh, I love a church sign."
Yeah,
I love a church sign. Do you know what? I'm finding some church signs.
Well, I'll tell you this one first, right? So this church sign, it says, "Why pray when you can worry?" And
that's good.
Yeah, it's like reflect on that for a second.
Let them have that one.
Yeah, no, it was a good one. It was good, but it got me thinking, because at first I thought you said, why worry when you can pray? But it's obvious, isn't it? Like what they're saying there is, I think, we're choosing to worry, but actually maybe there is another answer, and maybe prayer isn't just asking for things, but maybe it offers us something else. But we will kind of unpack a little bit as we go on.
It's good. Oh, church signs. So I found one here. This is a cracker.
Okay, so these are actual church signs on churches. So what have we got? Okay.
So this one says Adam and Eve, the first people to not read the Apple terms and conditions.
Oh, mate.
Okay, this is a classic. You've definitely heard this one before. Whoever you are, you've heard this one before. It says CH, and it says what's missing.
You are.
Oh,
wow. That is going to get everyone to come to church, I reckon. Yeah, definitely.
This is a good one. Hopefully not appropriate in our church, but you might be able to decide.
Do we need to put some kind of like censoring thing on now?
On this one?
Warning, no? Oh, we're appropriate in a different way. Okay, we're all right.
Hopefully no judgment.
Yeah, we're not kids cover your ears, none of that. No.
No. This one says, having trouble sleeping? Try one of our sermons.
that is us.
And that's because you would have casted your cares in the right place through prayer. That's
Amen.
Why.
Yeah.
And the last one I found, it says this: it's okay to fall apart. Tacos do it all the time, and we still love them.
That is true.
That's
I do love a taco.
That's poetry.
Yeah, and on that note, no, I'm joking. Do you love a taco? Let us know if you love a taco in the comments.
That's if you even know what a taco is.
No, a taco is. No, it's a kind of Mexican.
Mexican, yeah.
It's like a big crisp that you put food in. Like a good crisp that you put food in. It's not. I'm not the best at explaining this.
You make that sound great.
Yeah, I love crisps, so anything with crisps in sounds great. Crisps in. Amazing. So yeah, but obviously we've had a little bit of a laugh, but generally this is something that just invades our everyday, and it can go from the lightest thing, and I'm sure pretty much anyone who's watching this right now or listening to this right now is probably thinking as well, I have these worries that it's not that easy to just let go of them, and I don't think it is, and I think it's probably worth mentioning that's worth honouring. Yeah. It's not that easy to let go of worries.
No, it's hard work.
And sometimes we'll have to hold things for a long time. But in terms of like the Christian journey, and the fact that we believe strongly that Jesus does offer us answers into all of these areas of our lives, would you think that maybe speak into this particular topic?
Yeah. So I was kind of reflecting on this and thinking, it's easy for us to care about the things that are in front of us, the things that are going on around us, things that affect us, right?
Yeah.
But I think our call as Christians, and I think our responsibility as Christians, is actually to care about the things that Jesus cares about, and making that the priority rather than worrying too much about the day to day, and knowing that if we can fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of the faith, the one who created all things, this God that we choose to put our trust in, if we can keep our eyes on him, then in actual fact, those little things, they're probably going to sort themselves out, and actually then maybe in a better way than if we try to intervene or we try to worry about it, because the Bible talks about what difference does it make to your life for worrying, and I think we have that choice there to say, are we going to choose to give up our time, which is precious, to spend it worrying, to spend it being anxious about the things that are out of our hands, we're not in control of, which is a lot of where this worry and this anxiety comes from, not feeling in control. But are we going to choose to trust in God, to trust in Him and His promises and the things that He's saying about us and about the plans that He has for us. And are we going to choose then to care about the things that He cares about? Because while we might care about whether we get a parking space in work, right? Jesus maybe cares about the person that you drove past on the street,
of course,
who's homeless and struggling, and actually when
or maybe
change,
the person who needed the parking space more than you, and you just, you were in a rush, but maybe they were in an even, things like this is, we don't know the bigger picture, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think it's being open to saying to God, listen, like if I am gonna give you my cares, I want you to give me yours. I want you to show me your plans for this world, your kingdom in this world, so I can live out and allowing that over time to just begin to change. And to be honest, like that tap changing for me, it was massive. Seeing almost like my eyes opening to things.
Your life?
My eyes opening to things that I just didn't see before. Like I chose to sort of try and ignore because you're so swallowed up in your own cares, you're so swallowed up in your own things. But how can I possibly give them money when I've got my own money problems? How can I possibly give them my time when I'm worried about whether I've got enough time? When actually, like if we care about what He cares about, things just begin to change and that. And I think we see the world differently. I think we see some of the things that need addressing. They become more obviously. Hunger is built up inside us to say, no, I can't walk past that person anymore. I have to go and speak to them. They're a person. I want to see if I can help. If there's something I can do. Maybe sometimes we'll feel a little bit useless in that, but there'll be something for us in that learning.
I think that's really, really powerful, and I think definitely, and it's this idea of God's blessings are unlimited. So when we think we can't give enough of something away because we'll have none left, God will replenish that. And I think it comes back to our first week when we talked about love. Sometimes we're like, how can I give love out? I've got to keep it with my family, got to keep it for me, I've got to keep it for my family, got to keep it with my friends. But actually, love is an unlimited resource that God just keeps blessing with when we go to God and ask for that. And it's interesting though, Jamie, talking about how those little things might sort themselves out, we don't need to worry. But what about the big things? The things that actually, they really are very hard to deal with. Many of us have been through those things. Sometimes it just doesn't feel like there is any answer. What does that mean in terms of? Another thing you mentioned was, by centering on Jesus. How do those come together? Do you think?
Yeah. Well, I'd argue that maybe some of the things that we might refer to as being big things for us, maybe do become smaller in the light of the things that God cares about. But it doesn't mean that things won't come up, like you say, that we care about. And I think we've got big stuff. And I think we've got to remember in those moments that where we would believe as Christians that there is good promised to the people around us, whether whoever it is that's struggling, whoever it is that's going through something, it's easier for us to see that God would love them, that God would embrace them, that God would want to offer His peace, that God would want to send people to be around them, to surround them, to be praying for them, to uphold them, all that kind of stuff. I think one of the struggles is believing that can be for us too.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is not necessarily, and I'm kind of picking a little bit out of there, we're not fully kind of encapsulating what you're saying there, but one thing I'm picking from is perhaps in those moments when maybe the solution isn't what we need or what we feel we want, or even in those situations where it is really awful we have to deal with, not necessarily what's going to happen at the end of it, but it's where we sit while we're in that moment, and how we held, and how is that something that Jesus can speak into?
Absolutely. And I believe that what I'm getting at is this idea that is available for you, Aaron. When you go through time of trial and struggle,
I literally need to hear that on a daily basis. So thank you for telling me that today.
Well, that's available. But I reckon, and I know this of me, and I reckon it's probably true of you and others. It's easier for me to believe that for someone else, and even to share that with someone else, even to encourage that with someone else. But for me to hear that, for me, and to say, oh, actually, I'm really struggling at the moment, and to believe that could be something that God is offering to me, when it is hard, when there are trials, when there is things that you're warranted in feeling particularly anxious about, particularly worried about. That actually, like, he's there, he's with you, and he you know, he's not afraid of it. It's not bigger than him.
Yeah, so there's something about being inside that kind of space, that stressful space that we tend to hold on to stuff. We tend to hold on to stuff really, really tightly, these worries, and they get tighter and tighter. And so stress is a physical thing as well. It's not just a psychological thing, but it's a real physical, tangible thing. And we can feel it. Sometimes we get like a tight chest, don't we? And it just gets tighter. And I think it's what do we do with that? Because if we sit in that moment, all we're going to do is become more hunched up.
Yeah.
The worry gets stronger and it consumes us. But maybe there is an answer to this. Maybe there is a way that we can let go of that. And I know it's something.
I think that's such a good image, by the way. Like, this idea of letting go and feeling that anxiety leave your body. It, you know, certainly something that prayer has done for me.
Yeah.
In moments. But I think you know, I was kind of dwelling on this idea of what you're saying there. You know, allowing it to fester, allowing it to get you basically, and to grab hold of you, and allowing it to build up,
to own you in a way.
Exactly. And it sort of made me think about Peter. You know, Peter is someone who clearly struggles a little bit with his anxiety. We see that because he has this moment of betraying Jesus. He's anxious in that moment about what might happen to him, what might happen to his mates, what's going to happen next. You know, they've asked a lot of questions of Jesus. As disciples, we see a lot. They're sort of a little bit worried around what he might do, if he's going to be saved, if they're going to be okay, all that kind of stuff. And we see this moment just before where Jesus basically says to Peter, you know, you're gonna deny me. Like, this is gonna happen. And I think Jesus is offering that opportunity for Peter to say, yeah, do you know what, I'm really struggling here with my anxiety, to give the care that he's holding on to that's festering to Jesus. But instead he chooses to say, no, I won't, I would never, I couldn't possibly.
Keeps it to himself.
And he keeps it to himself, and he holds on to it. And then we have this moment of denial. And what's so great for us as Christians is seeing this moment of redemption when Jesus' return. That Peter is able to say sorry, and Jesus is able to forgive him, and that is so important for us, I think, as Christians, because you know, we're not going to get this right all the time.
We're not, and Peter is he's a perfect example of that, because Peter, all the way through, he's pretty anxious about stuff. He needs to know the answers to stuff, doesn't he? And what reminds me of Peter is, he's us, isn't he? He's us. He's the human. He's the person, and it's the journey that he goes on with Jesus is the human journey, isn't it? How we can't always let go, we can't stop worrying, but then how it comes in the end, and we see the full reversal of Jesus' kind of forgiveness and grace. Is incredible, isn't it? You know, and not only is Peter kind of told, I forgive you. He's given the keys to the city, really, isn't it? It's like, you're still the person who I love. You're still the person I'm going to release into this. And release being that word, you know, you've given it to me. Now kind of I'm going to like help you go and be the best version of yourself. And you know, you rely on me, fixing your eyes on me. And I think it's a huge thing. But
not to go too much off topic, but I absolutely love Peter in that way. It's like a picture of grace. Because he messes up a fair amount of times, but that is us, you know. I can definitely relate. But he messes up a lot, but Jesus still says, on this rock I will build my church. And I've always been like, what do you mean by rock when you talk about Peter? Because I don't see a rock. You know what I mean? But it's almost like in his grace that Jesus can see what he could be as well, you know. And I guess just that willingness of him in the end to be willing to say, you know, I'm sorry, I did mess up, and that I think we've got to be willing to say, with the things that we're struggling with, the things that we're walking with, can we offer them to him? You know, he does offer us that opportunity to say, what are you struggling with? Like, what's going on, Aaron? Like, what? And he can see it. He can see that it's going to happen. He can see that it's festering. He can see that we're holding on to it tightly. And again, it comes down to trust, doesn't it? You know, can we share those things with him? Can we share our heart with him? Share the things that we're allowing to fester, to avoid this moment maybe where we end up going against who we are, because that's what Peter does. He goes against who he actually is, and who he knows he is as well. Like, he's fully sold out for Jesus. Like, you can say maybe it takes the next thing that happens for him to get to that point, but he's so devoted to Jesus. You can see that in a lot
He's
of
the
the
rock,
stuff that
isn't
he
he?
does.
Jesus, you're my rock, and
That's it.
in that moment he's not. But
Yeah.
do you know? I think actually, just kind of what we're talking about here is: are we able to cast our cares? Are we able to take the invite that Jesus gives us, that gives to Peter in that moment, to say, I want to hear it. I want to take it. I actually want to take it. And I want to leave it at I want you to bring it to the foot of the cross. Yeah. And this is the reason I came. This is the reason I died, for you to take this from you.
So good.
Are we able to kind of come with our hands out and pass our fears, our worries, and our concerns to Jesus, so that that load can be lightened? At the end of the day, the burden that we have from Jesus is not a heavy one.
Yeah.
Jesus takes that away, and are we able to kind of do that, I guess?
So good. I think that's, again, a great place to end. Just
Yeah.
what are our things that we're holding on to? Maybe we'll just start by leaving a bit of space. The things that you are holding on to.
I could do with that as well, actually,
Yeah.
right now. So yeah.
That's the same, and just allow him to take some of that anxiety from you, and to ask. We're going to ask together for him to tell us what he cares about.
Yeah.
And to just begin to reposition our minds in that. So let's just spend the moment, if you want to stay, and just sit with us in some silence as we just give those cares to Jesus. Let's not allow them to fester.
Jesus, in this silence, we just ask you to kind of name those things that maybe we might not be able to grab in our minds right now, that are holding heavy. Maybe name them one by one, and to show us the reality that you are asking for them of us. And every single thing you take of us, we can feel it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And we cast our cares on you, Jesus, onto you. We just pray that we're able to just continue to do this, to offload those things to you today, to pray in place of worrying, to realise that worrying isn't going to get us any further where we need to go, and to trust in you. To trust in your ultimate grace and forgiveness for anything we've ever done. And to trust that you know the way forward after we've gotten rid of these things that are so heavy, that you know the way we can move forward. We just need to follow you. I'm going to meet you at the cross this morning, Jesus. Let me say thank you.